the building, instead of the driver climbing up in the cab of the truck to hit the air horns, you do it right from the pump controls. Our sales rep, he's the president, owner of Garrison Fire and Rescue. We'll take it over from here.
Yeah, so what I told Brad is we'll have our one of our techs will come down once you get hose on and everything else, and that way you can go out and flow water, etc. But I'm guessing we probably don't want to flow much water today.
No.
So, but I'll go over the basic operations of this truck. It's not going to be too different. Some of it's a little intimidating, like with these controls, etc. We'll get to the pump here in a second, but if you want, we can have a couple guys gather around the cab.
Go around to a couple of people around to the other side.
And if you want to hop in the mount through and look over. So your master switch is right here. Operation, so that's fixed in there all the time. And what I usually do is let this thing cycle through, let the gauges go up, let them go back down. Very simple startup. So the big difference with this, probably from your other trucks, International has a shifter on the steering column. So instead of a keypad, a touchpad, or a key shifter, everything's right here. That's drive. Reverse, so it's all right there for you. Your air brake is right here. Okay. 12 volt. You also have the USB 12 volt. Do not move apparatus. So once I release the parking brake, it's going to blink if we have a door open. So that could be any door on the vehicle. But if that's blinking, just take a walk around and make sure you've got that taken care of. The standard International controls are pretty basic. HVAC, fan, settings here. Diff lock button, engine fan for hot summer months, regen, inhibit regen. You're not going to have to worry too much about that. The inhibit is basically designed in the fire service. Is anybody an over-the-road driver? So on an over-the-road truck, they'll typically regen once you get to a certain speed, and they'll automatically go into regen. In the fire service, we don't want a regen happening if we're out at, let's say, an odor of gas. You don't want this thing running at high temperatures. So you would inhibit it. Basically, it's got to stop it from doing its regen. Eventually, you'll have to do the regen, and Eric will go over that full operation when we do a full all-out orientation for you. As far as your emergency controls here, master warning light. All your lights are on one switch there. You've got an air horn button here. You also have it here, but so that's horn, air horn. So that's for the regular horn. I guess it's got to be ground lights. All your ground lights switching out on the perimeter of the vehicle. Your left tail light, right tail light. These are momentary switches. Those will turn off. The reason they're momentary is you have another switch out at the pump panel. So if you get out and forget to turn on those telescopic lights, you can do it here or you can do it here independent of each other. Okay, front sea light, that's this bar going across the front. It's pretty bright, especially like if it's a snowstorm, so use it sparingly when you're driving. Your left scene light's again momentary on that one. Your right scene light again momentary there. High idle. You hear the idle come up, turn it back off. This truck also has an auto high idle. If your 12 volt and Nowadays, the lights on these trucks don't suck down your 12 volt that much like that light bar on that truck would do. However, if your 12 volt is dropping, you'll hear that high idle kick up. Okay, you don't have to panic. It's not going to do it if the pump's engaged. But if you do hear that kick up, all you have to do is just touch the brake once, and that'll kick it back down to idle. But the high idle is doing just that, doing its job. Do you guys have this type of siren controller?
No, we do not.
Okay, so this is going to be a little bit new to you, but so G1. So yeah, that'll definitely get some attention for you. Obviously, your camera's mounted up, your radios are mounted here.
If I'm not mistaken, that rumbler is that first top one there.
That's a We actually had City of Schenectady was in our shop the other day, and they were all about your rumbler. They were playing with that for a while. So your pump shifter, very simple operation. I'm assuming you have like a plunger style in the other truck. So this is going to work very similar, and you should have right here for your pump operation. So set the park brake, which we have the park brake, shift to neutral. We're in neutral. Apply the foot brake and take the pump lever. And you don't have to be concerned that you're going to hit this by mistake. This is a pull up and shift. Okay, so right now it's in road position. I pull it up to pump, and then we're going to put it in drive, and your pump's engaged. Okay? So when you do it opposite, you go back to neutral, pull the plunger up, back to road. Okay? So I'll do that one more time just so everybody, so again, your parking brake set, your vehicle's in neutral, your foot's on the brake. You'll see some folks do it without the foot on the brake. I never trust a truck that it's not going to jump out of gear on me, so I always like to have my foot on the brake. Now there are trucks, your neighbors in Stone Ridge, they can't touch the brake because the Peterbilt's actually, that'll kick it out of pump gear. So, you know, if you happen to be cross-training or anything. But again, so we're going to do that. We're going to take this, we're in neutral, shift it up to pump, you get the first light, put it into drive, wait for the second one, and you hear the pump kick in, so you're pumping water. Okay, once you put up the brake. Other than that, the internationals do tell you a lot of things. Like right now, it's going to tell you got icy road conditions. But other than that, mostly standard gauges here. Your hazards are here. We have a seatbelt alarm up here. So these work. I know you guys are pretty safety conscious here, but some people do try to cheat this system and buckle the seatbelt behind them if they don't want to have their seatbelt on. That's not going to work because it senses that you have to sit and then buckle. So if you don't do it in that order, if it's buckled behind you, you're going to get a red alarm. So
now the truck won't move, or it will still move?
No, it'll always move. Yeah. Okay. Every once in a while we get a bad sensor. You don't want the truck to be locked up, but yeah, it's gonna be screaming at you. And the nice part with this is it tells you what seat.
I know in Walkill they used to do that a lot. Buckle it behind.
So if you lean a little harder from where you are on that seat, you'll probably see it light up. So that's all it is. It's just a little bit of weight on that seat will sense it. So if for some reason you're going driver alone or driver and officer, and somebody throws their gear on that back seat, it's going to set that alarm up. I've had it done with my briefcase in the back of the demo truck. So,
okay,
you know, so just if you do see that alarm, it'll say, hey, that seat over there. But if you look right now, I'll buckle up. Okay, so that's the difference. It'll show green. Ready? Your backup camera.
Oh, we can actually turn that on.
You can turn it, it'll automatically come on when you go in reverse, but you can have it on. It's nice, like if you're packing hose.
Because the other truck we can't.
Yeah, no, this one you can, and you know, like we use it when we deliver trucks because he just makes sure I'm behind him because in a wide truck you can't see somebody behind. So that's a cool picture with Santa. I'll take a picture. But yeah, that'll come on automatically. When I go into reverse, I believe this one has the audible to it too, so if somebody's back there, You know, they can talk to the driver as well. A lot of people will turn that volume down. Reason being is when you put it in reverse, the mic is back there, and what else is back there is your backup alarm. So it gets really annoying with that backup alarm coming over this microphone. So that's your call. It's there for safety for the guy to tell you about it, but it also does get annoying. Again, back down here to the pump operations. So it's going to tell us how to come back out. So let's go ahead. We're going to shift this back to neutral. They say wait 3 seconds, and that basically allows it the shifting fork go back to the road mode. Both of your lights are off, and we can now drive.
That's better than our own the lever that we have. You have to wait till all the air comes out. You have to hear for all the air out, and then you go either up or down. So it's, you know, that's a lot better in my opinion.
Tilt telescopic wheel. Okay, for the taller or shorter guys, you got your tilt telescopic. Your interior lights are push button. Okay. What I like to do, I like to leave the red on all the time. The reason for red is it doesn't reflect in the window, so keep those reds on all the time and you'll never have an issue. That'll happen once the door opens, so the lights will activate as well. Okay. Anything else on the inside? These air pack brackets are probably new to you. These are Smart Dock. They work on inertia. They've all been adjusted for your air packs. When you get the new T1s, we can readjust them because they'll be a little, I assume the new ones are going to this truck. Yes. So yeah, we'll get that adjusted for those packs. But basically the way they work is you'll notice there's no straps or anything. So all you're going to do, you put it on and you just pull out. It works like a seatbelt. It's going to hook it in. If there's a high impact, they don't pull out. But if you pull them out, if you put them on, you step right on the seatbelt. They'll come right out. Okay? And that's just a matter of getting used to it. They're 10 times better than the old ones, so those will work out well. You have some storage back here. Some of your electronics are underneath. I'm not a radio guy, but River Valley put these in, so you should be all good to go there. We got a cool picture of you on the backup camera, Santa. So. Okay. Any questions? I'm going to go ahead and put it back in pump just so we can go out to the pump panel for you. All right. I'm actually going to take it back out of pump because we're not doing it. So going across your pump panel switch, you've got an air horn, so you can activate that for an evac button, etc. Pump compartment heater, perfect for a day like today. You go out, it's a car accident or something else that you're not flowing water at. You got a 30,000 BTU heater that's inside that pump panel. That'll keep it warm. If you're typically the operator on this and it's the middle of August and you notice that's on, just turn it off. You know, you just don't want to overheat a pump. However, you really have to have it on for a while. So this time of year, it's not a bad idea to keep it on. It'll keep that water. You guys run a wet pump most of the time? So if you run a wet pump, it's going to do that protection. You still, as a pump operator, want to circulate water. So tank the pump the tank, circulate that water. But this will help in those low areas. It'll keep save you from a lot of food. Your pump panel lights are basically your compartment lights. But you'll also have telescopic lights. We talked about these three-way switching, so I can turn them on in the cab or out here. Left scene lights up above, right one's obviously there, like the rears. I believe that this one, the backup lights, the scene lights come on. So your rear scene lights will also come on when the vehicle's placed in reverse. So you'll light up the world with these LEDs. Right now they're not that impressive, but turn them on at nighttime and it's really going to light things up. Okay, did you put some governor on any other trucks?
Not like that.
Okay. So the way the governor works, in the old days we had a vernier throttle controller and you had a relief valve that you would crank and set to a certain pressure. That's still around, that's still a thing, but most people have gone to electronic governor. So the way the governor works is when you draft, you want to be, do you do a lot of drafting?
Yeah.
So when you draft, you want to be in RPM mode. So when you're pulling a prime, you want to be in RPM mode because if not, the pressures kind of fluctuate with a certain discharge pressure. So your RPMs will go up and down because you don't have a prime. So if you get your prime while you're in RPM, once you get your prime, switch back over to pressure mode. When you're in RPM mode, you're 100% relying on the pump operator, and something goes bad, there's no relief, somebody shuts down 3 lines, that 1 line's going to jump up in the air, okay? So really only use that for priming. Your pressure is going to work similar to the way a relief valve works. So we've got a 2.5 line pulled off, we have 2 other people on 1 3/4. He shuts down that 2.5. Typically all that pressure would now go to 2 3/4 line. What this is going to do is electronically, faster than you can even think, it'll drop the RPMs to maintain the pressure on those other 2 lines. So that's your safety. It's not dumping water out the atmosphere like a relief valve typically would do. It's all done electronically. This is the rheostat type knob. So if a kid gets in your firehouse and turns it, you're not going to get in to have your RPMs up like an old vernier drive. So this is always going to be set back to 0. It's got the idle button in the middle. So if stuff goes bad, you need to shut things down. In the old days with the vernier, we told you only unless it's an emergency, hit that red knob because it sort of would cause water hammer. This one not so much because it's all electronic, so it's taking it down incrementally, but faster than we can think. So, but it is safe to hit this if you did want to go back to idle without this. Reset, you can certainly set that up. I don't know what kind of nozzles, but if you have a typical, if you're running 150 or 100 PSI at the pump, you go out and you can hit that, and it'll automatically bring you up to that setting. If you don't use that feature, it's not a big deal. This is so simple to bring up to the pressure, and right up here, it'll show you your discharge. All your other gauges, your oil, your temperature, your battery voltage, water temp as well, all built right into here, so you don't have all the gauges that you typically have up here. It's all in here. It does have an alarm that'll go off. Probably the first one you'll hear is, if you ever have it sitting in the station with the batteries off, the battery alarm will go off. You can just hit that silence, once you figure out, you'll have a message here that tells you what the alarm is, right? Other than that, check engine, stop engine are very self-explanatory. You can scroll through the menu, it will show you engine temp, engine oil pressure, battery voltage, engine hours, transmission temp, pump hours. I don't even know what that means. And it'll always default back to the home screen. I'm not sure if we've got the time set up correctly. Maybe we can have it. So that's the basic operations here. Your tank level gauge, get one on the back, correct?
Right, all 3 sides.
Okay, all 3 sides, right there. So that'll go off when we release the parking brakes and when you're going down the road, those are on. But this will come up and this will change colors as it goes up to the top. They're all tied to each other, so they should all be reading the same thing. If for some reason they don't, let us know. We get that color. If you notice over time, there's a sensor in there with the water. If you notice over time that it's showing 3/4 and your water's overflowing at the top, it's a very simple adjustment we can make. We can show you how to do it. It doesn't happen too often, but don't just write it off and say, oh, it's just something we live with. We know it's at 3/4. It's a very simple fix. Just let us know and we can fix it. The gauges here, similar to what you have on everything else. 0 to 600, this one has vac because that's on your vacuum side. This is your pressure side. That's up to you, your SLB, what you're doing for pressure. Same with the corresponding valve bank down here. This is your UL test plate that shows you it's been tested at 1,500 gallons a minute. Obviously you've got your communication radio. But now we're down to here, the weird looking things that you've probably never seen before. So this is the cable system. It's basically aircraft cable. So your standard valves that you're used to, push pull, quarter turn to lock them, okay? So speed lay, your 2 speed lays, push the wheel, tank fill, and then the deck nut is a slow close. Okay, that's closed. That's open. We have everything open just because it was winterized. Okay, so these valves work similar to this. They just look a little funny, but if anybody's ever fought one of these pump panels where they're really hard operating, certainly play with these a little bit. What this little knob here is exactly what this does. That's quarter turn. If I want to flow number 3 discharge at half throttle, I do that, and it's locked into place. Okay, flip that up. Okay. You also have MIVs on this truck, so unlike the old valve that you put on the outside, you see this is just an elbow. So this is all your relief valve built right into the intakes. So right now, you see they're about half capacity. Go ahead. So just hold down that button. We're actually opening up that valve. 100%. You can do presets, but typically on a master intake you want open and shut. That's really what you want. These are designed, they're also designed for discharge gauges as well. Okay, you've got your pump cooler and engine cooler. These are 3/8 Simplex lines, so there's very minimal amount of cooling going on. Again, as always, circulate that water in the tank and, you know, in the pump if you're out the pump. On these, play with them. You'll find they're very simple. It's just hold down a button and they're going to go for it. So. Any questions on that?
The only question, Mike, is just, where do we leave off the air coming into the old page? Right there.
Okay, so on your external valve that you have on the other trucks, there's an air bleeder. So that's right here built into the pump panel. This is something the chief added, I think, a final inspection. So, you know, you're getting fed, you have all that air, just open this up, bleed it off, and then close it back down, and they work just like that. Okay? And a little bit of different having the controls in this over here. This is actually a safer operation because now your pump operator isn't standing next to the live line. You know, you're kind of offset. So you have your 2.5 discharges here, your master intake, and you have your driver's auxiliary system. This is the direct control, quarter turn. And I don't know if you have these lift-up drains, the old plunger style or twist, whatever you have on the other truck. These are just a lift-up style. The nice part about these is from 4 feet away, you can tell if your drains are open or closed. So you see them down, they're closed. Okay? All your steps have lights built into them, and they also have a handle built into them. You have some upper body storage, some storage up above. Pull out steps under here.
Hey, the midget step.
Get familiar with all like the shelves and trays because some of them, like this one, works on a gas shock. You have other ones that have a plunger. So at 2 o'clock in the morning, it's a lot better to orient yourself when you're in the station than trying to figure it out in the middle of the night. So this one, at 50%, you push it back in, it'll close. So you can mount stuff to either side there. This is set up for hose storage, and that can be adjusted. You got here for your air bottle storage. Your wheel chocks are underneath. Bring out tool board. Got the back wall, and now you can just out of this one. A little lift up here. So out and down, I don't know if you have these on any of the trucks. The thing I warn you about is if the stuff isn't mounted, if I think it was there, that could have come down. So, especially on the out and down, you want to make sure things are pretty secure. This is the plunger style pull out. You pull that plunger up, get about halfway, and then pull it up again. And run on. Going around to the back. You already have the rear seat lights on. You have another switch switch here that'll turn your backup lights on. It's a nice LED light. So it's just another feature if you're back here packing hose and looking around the back. Flip that on to give you some additional lighting. This is our easy climb ladder. If anybody's ever climbed the back of the truck, you always feel like you're falling off. This is a real solid ladder. It holds me, it'll hold any of you folks. So nice access to the top. The way you folks designed this truck, this left hose bed is a walkway. So your hose bed cover is only going to cover from that L bracket across. So you have a full walkway going up there. So nice safety feature there. Suction hose up top, I believe.
This one over here.
Suction over there up top. Storage up here. Ladders, pipe holes. Direct tank fill. You got a drain valve built here. Same thing like we talked about bleeding off on the intake. You got a fully charged line. Pull that drain. And this is also direct control, water turn valves. That goes direct into the tank. So if this valve isn't shut and you disconnect, the water's coming back out of the tank. So there's no check valves like in the old days. Everybody's got a water turn on the okay? Here's your Cottekill, your battery charger inlet. This one's probably a little more advanced than what they have. So it's going to tell you your battery voltage, your air tank pressure, and that your battery's charging. A little different than the other one. This one will be on all the time. It was something I learned on your truck. So if you're driving down the street or parked in the station, this is going to be lit. Okay? These side compartments are pretty basic. Again, shelving trays. We've got some electronic controls here, but nothing for you folks to worry about. It's more on the maintenance side. All your lighting, all switches built into these catches on the bottom. That's what turns on the marker lights. We've got more storage in the wheel wells over here. you know, when people are flowing water, you bring it up and bringing it down. Now you basically sit here and watch it do the work for you. But, you know, obviously safety reason, you want to be right there in case you have to do something. It's going to do most of the work for you. But on the safety side, just make sure when you're flowing water that you switch back over. Questions?
Where's the prime?
And you want to exercise that a lot, especially if you haven't had a run in a couple of months where you're flowing water. Open up your tank to pump and pull that primer valve. They're oilless now, so they build up like a resin in there, and with a little bit of moisture in that resin, sometimes it almost like cements itself. So just flushing a little water through there every once in a while will free it back up.
You made that part of the monthly maintenance.
Yeah, but if you open your tank pump, it gets a little water in, introduces some water into that primer. And that's probably, on this whole truck, that's your biggest 12-volt drum. We can shut this truck off and just run all the 12-volt sea lighting for probably 2-3 hours without even putting a blip on the battery. One pull on that thing, you'll actually see your lights dim. It's a heavy-duty 12-volt battery, heavy 12-volt motor, so that's going to be your biggest 12-volt. But compared to that light bar alone on that truck parked next to it, probably uses more 12-volt than this whole truck together.
So maybe I'm missing something here, but unless you take that big ass thing off there, how the hell are we drafting with this truck?
Right, yeah, that's exactly why we have the long handle.
So we have to take that off every single time.
Right, but this is not the draft truck, that is.
I know, but
So it's very rare that this truck is going to go to draft.
Yeah, the other way to do it is you have the 6 to the 4, but then you're going to affect your flow. I think that was the discussion we had. You're going to get full flow if you go direct. Where if you had a 4-inch with a 6-inch adapter on it out here, now you're going to flow maybe 1,000, maybe 750 gallons a minute.
Moving tank like these.
is that we have to take the adapter off?
The 6-inch is right on the wall valve.
Yeah.
And you got the adapter for it. So
Yeah, it's the same thing. I mean,
right.
with the long handles here.
Adapter. Yeah, that's all. Not that big of a deal.
And I don't know, Aiden told me the upgrade, put the VFB ones on it. It's a little bit better than the 27.
Okay. Anybody have any questions before Mike takes
But
off?
again, the chief's got my info. Silly things, anything, you know, filter through us. What I tell people is brand new piece of equipment, things are going to happen, things are going to go wrong, problems, etc. If you find like a loose screw, if you find like something minor, start a list. If you find something major, call right away. We're about a half an hour north of here. We got guys on call 24/7. So if you have a problem, you know, we can take care of it. But what we usually tell people in the first couple weeks, you're going to find little minor things. Start a list. That way, you know, we're not running back and forth for half an hour repairing to come down and clean them all up. Once you get your stuff on it, you'll have enough time to get, driving and playing around with it. Then, as I say, Eric can go over some of the maintenance checks for you, etc. Chris Grove, he can tell you, it's a pretty smooth ride rig. And not because you guys are standing in front of us. We've had probably about 7 or 8 calls on this, and we haven't even posted on social media yet with other dealers. It's a lot of truck in a small package, so. Your group did a really good job designing this, and certainly something that we're proud of. The light bar is pretty slick. I don't know if anybody really got a chance to look at the light bar from the front, but that's pretty slick. whatever, rinse it off because it will erode aluminum. But when it first came out, people were panicking because of this. It's really not that big of a deal. It'll do its regen if you're out driver training. If not, it'll tell you have to do a regen. And what you'll do, you basically pull it out on the apron, and you can hit the regen button. It'll bring your RPMs up. It'll take typically between 20 minutes and a half an hour. What I tell people is, if you don't have the patience for that, take it for a ride. Go out on 209 and go for a 20-minute ride, and it'll do it. It's not going to happen when you're pumping, okay? And if you've ever heard about a truck derating, that'll happen if you've ignored its instruction to regen like 5 or 6 times. You really have to, ignore it an awful lot for it to derate. So, again, when Eric comes down, we'll go into more of the specifics on that. But it shouldn't be an issue. Really, the worst thing that causes the buildup with the where the depth is needed is what's happening right now. Idle time. So the career departments we see it the most because they go to station 2 for lunch, and they park the rig out front and let it run for a minute. So, not that this is hurting it right now, but if we did this every day for an hour and let it idle, then you'll probably have to regen more of it. Any other questions?
Everything's good to go?